Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. I'm going to post a poll. So I request everybody to participate in the poll. There will be a poll question. One poll question is there. Just I'm putting in the chat box. So you have to click on the poll question. Automatically it will redirect you so that you need to poll. Once after polling, we will have a discussion. So I request everybody to please poll because the polling will be shown on the screen. I think my PowerPoint is visible.
Yes. Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, Purna, there are around 8 people who are waiting. So ask Tejashwin to sign
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
I'm admitting, sir. I'm admitting all the people.
Yeah. So once again, good evening all. Today there is a session on research grant writing. I think Dr. Purna has already explained who I am, and many of you know about me. Myself, Dr. Vivekanand Kattimani, presently working as head of the Department of Clinical Research, which has been recently inaugurated. And I am working as a professor in the Department of Oral Maxillofacial Surgery, Shivard Institute of Dental Sciences, Guntur. So before going into the grant writing, so let us have an understanding what is a research proposal and what is a grant proposal. So there is a link. There is a link. I want the people to have the poll, and please do not annotate anything. I request, somebody has requested annotating. Okay, please do not do any annotating because there is a record is going on. So once the poll is complete, I'm going to show you the results. It's a very simple poll. So I hope the screen is visible for everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Visible.
Yes, sir.
So this is a poll results. Still the people supposed to do the polling because we do have 150, more than 150 participants. So out of 1 participants, we have received the poll number, which is less. Hundred and 10 people have been polled. So, Dr. Purna, shall I wait another 2 minutes for polling to complete?
I think you can go ahead, sir, as we are already delayed.
Okay, thank you. So here let me read out the results. The 3%, 3 people are saying out of 110 people, 3% are saying whether the research proposal and grant proposal are same. They say only 3% are saying both are same, and 41% say both are different. So majority of the people, almost nearly 50% of the people are saying both are different, and both may look similar. 8% of the people are saying both may look similar, and 12% are saying may overlap in few aspects. And research proposal can be a grant proposal. They say yes, 27%. and grant proposal may be a research proposal. That's a 9%. So orally, if we take the number, according to the number, the highest number goes 41%. Both are different. Then next is a 27% where they say research proposal can be a grant proposal. Then another next is may overlap in few aspects, 12%. Probably I can say whoever have said both are different, probably no. But when we talk about the grant proposal and research proposal, they can be the same because there will be overlap. Okay, so both are same. Very less people have said both are same. It's only 3%, and both will look similar. Yes, both will look similar. But when we go ahead and go through the presentation, then you will understand what exactly is a grant proposal and what is a research proposal. Because Dr. Purna has informed me regarding the participants. They said there will be interns, but now I could able to see there are faculty, postgraduates and interns who have joined for the session. So in session, I'm going to go through very briefly what you are going to do with the research proposal and how you are going to write a grant proposal when you are going to make it as a grant proposal. Writing a grant proposal is an exercise in a logic basically, because it's like a lawyer pleading a case or a debater making a point where the proposal, the writer must build a logical argument, because you need to ask somebody the money. Nobody is ready to give the money, whether it's a government funding authority or a corporate, or it may be any of the NGO who are ready to fund. So they will ask why I should fund you. That's the first question. Then definitely you need to go for a debating. But the debating should be in a logical sequence, because somebody has to be convinced to ask the money. Even if you want to ask 10 rupees for your father or your relative, they will ask why you want. That's a very simple question anybody can ask. The proposal points must be well thought out, and the argument must flow in a rational, and it should be through a proposal's various sections, building the impression that funding of the proposed object is reasonable, sensible, and desirable. This is a very brief introduction how you can convince the funder, because the funder, if he is going to be convinced, then you can get the fund maybe in crores. So this is a very simple and sample of a grant proposal, how it looks. So let me tell you what's the difference between a research proposal and grant proposal. When you see this aim, objectives, background, significance, preliminary results, research methodology and design, schedule, till here the research proposal comes. When you're going to come over the budget and resources, definitely budget and resources will not be the part of the research proposal, usual research proposal we are talking. But when it comes to the grant proposal, you need to have two columns. You need to have two columns. Those two columns will be a budget and resources. That's very important aspect for the grant proposal writing. Then the all remaining things remains the same. This I have taken an example from National Institute of Health, where they are going to have the research proposal outline or a heading. So those outline will be aim. Then you will have a background and significance. Then you will have a preliminary results. If at all, if it is there, then you are going to have a research method and design. Then you are going to have a scheduling. Usually the scheduling will be given a Gantt chart. Then you will have a budgetary part. Then you are going to have a resources. So which all the resources you are going to utilize. Then you are going to summarize whole of the proposal into a 200 words or 300 words, depending on the mandate of the proposal. Then you are going to have some figures. So those figures may be a Gantt chart, or it may be a chart basically, which is going to give the complete picture of the proposal. Then you will have to have a literature which you supposed to cite. This is all about the health related research. But when you are going to talk about the humanities and social sciences, in the humanities and social sciences, there are a few words or a side headings which may change. Definitely you will need to have an introduction, because you need to give what you want to do, and you're supposed to state a problem statement. After giving the problem statement, you're supposed to tell them what's the need. Then you're supposed to have a project goals. Then you are going to have objectives. Then you are going to have a methods and evaluation, then future tasks, because the funding is needed, why you want the funding. Then you will have a budget, and you will have a appendix or appendices. So these are the very important aspects when you're going to write a grant proposal. So Whenever you are going to write a research proposal and grant proposal, only the two aspects are going to change. One is a budget and resources. If you are going to remove budget and resources, then it is going to be the research proposal. You may be writing it for the MDS dissertation, or it may be something else. But when you want to write it for the grant, then definitely you're supposed to look after budget and resources, which is very important. Each of the funder will not see anything. Directly after seeing your aim, if it is going to fit into the first area of that particular proposal, then he will directly see the budgetary part. How much budget you are going to ask him, whether the budget asked is within the limit or not. And if it is out of the limit, then is that realistic or not? So these are the two things when the funder is going to look after. There only your proposal is going to get accepted. So before start the grant proposal writing or a research proposal writing, it's very important. Good writing will not save a bad ideas, but bad writing can kill good ones. This is very important because many times we think, no, we can write in a very good way, but it certainly will not save a bad ideas. If your research proposal is a bad one, even though you are having a good writing, it is not going to get accepted. But in other way around, if your writing skill is not good, certainly your idea is good, but definitely it is not going to get fund also. So with this gracious 2015 sentence, let me start how you can go ahead with the grant writing. So what about the research? Because many of you people are postgraduates and a few are faculty members. I think I understand. By this time, you people know what's the research, what is the research, and why you want to do the research. Basically, the research is an investigation of a problem in a scientific manner, because in every day, whatever it come across, even if you take a simple grocery, if you want to go for any shopping, so nowadays, because of the COVID lockdown, everybody will be searching for online platform. So you want to go ahead with a grocery marketing online. Then there are many platforms. It may be Reliance, JioMart, or it may be a Best Price, or it may be a Big Basket. Certainly, everybody starts searching. What they will search for the economic groceries. So that's how the investigation will start for your problem statement. Your problem statement is you want to buy a grocery in a COVID lockdown, and who can give you the grocery within your limit, because by evening you're supposed to prepare a biryani, so you don't have anything for preparing biryani. That's your problem statement. So you want to do some investigation. How you want to do? You want to go ahead with so many platforms. In the platforms, you want to find out whether the things which you want, whether it is available or not. So those things can be whether you can get it within the timeline or not. So this is what you are going to do. The next is discovery of solution that advances the state of knowledge in the areas from theory to algorithms, or it may be to the prototypes, to experimentation, then to the application. Usually we say bench to bed. Whenever we talk about the bench to bed, certainly any experimentation, usually very basic experimentations, which is going to build you the hypothesis and the theory part. But nowadays, many of the funders are looking for translational research. So whenever the funder is going to look after translational research, you need to understand what's the word translation. Translation means it is application part. So whatever you do, that part should go for the application. When it goes for the application, certainly the return of the money will come for the funder. Otherwise, usually they will not allow you people to go ahead and get the fundraising. There are some people and there are some government agencies who are looking after the basic research. So they don't look after translation. Certainly there you can apply for the basic research work. Then why you want to do the research? Either you want to invent something, or be on a leading edge of the discovery, be a scientist, or it may be a transfer of discoveries to benefit the society and work in interesting and rewarding careers. So these are the few things why you want to go ahead with the research. So let me quote, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Usually it happens. The formulation of a problem is often more essential than its solution. So both the statement, if you see, they may contradict each other, but they are true. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Even though we know there is a problem, and today when we woke up and we feel there is a problem, and certainly next day morning when we woke up, you may get a solution, because you need to have a calm mind so that you can think about the problem, how you can solve it. Coming to a research proposal, what exactly the research proposal means? It introduces your reader or a supervisor to the proposed or a purpose, then specifies the direction of the research project you are planning. And definitely it is going to pursue the funding agencies, because today we are talking about the grant proposals. It's supposed to pursue because somebody has to understand who is ready to pay you, and it pursues the partners that the research will be worthwhile, because every person who is going to fund definitely will see whether it is a worthwhile or not. Why we won't get a funding? Many of the dental researchers, we know, and even a medical research also will not get, because there are some thirst areas where the fundraiser is interested. Those thirst areas we supposed to fit our research so that we can get the money. And definitely the research proposal is going to help you to determine your focus and clarifies what is involved in your project and how the plan should be developed. A well-written research proposal means half the war won for grant. If you're going to have a very good written proposal, definitely you have won the war for the grant. Majority of the time, whenever you are going to submit a grant proposal, they will go through very briefly, and the timelines mentioned, the word capacity mentioned, including the font size, spelling mistakes, everything is very important when you're going to submit a grant proposal. That is going to make a difference, because each reviewer will get minimum of 12 to 35 grant research proposals for reading. So they don't have the time to do all those things. So they will be going through very quickly. So it's supposed to be very catchy, then only they will be able to read. Because in the same thirst area, there will be 100 proposals. So he need to select and he need to distinctly remove some of the proposal. So how he is going to remove? So you are going to see in the next slides. So before writing a research proposal, do you need to be an expert in your area? Can anybody tell me? I don't think. Because you need not be an expert, but you need to understand what is all about the research. So you read a papers, you read a journals, talk to experts, you attend conferences and attend talks, so that you will get some knowledge about that particular research. Then you're supposed to have a question, what I am going to do, why I should do. So if you're going to answer these two questions, then certainly you can able to write a research proposal, even though if it is not a expert area. Then what's the typical outline of a research proposal? You need to have a title. It's very similar to MDS dissertation. Probably the postgraduates can understand what are the difference. Title should be there, introduction and background with a rationale. Then you are going to have objectives. Then you will have a methodology. Then expected outcome. Usually we say it as a hypothesis. Then ethical consideration. Nowadays, the ethical considerations are very important because of changing clinical trial regulations. Even in India, the clinical trial regulations have been very well modified, including devices. And duration and time frame, it is also very important, because usually during presentation of IEC, you people have come across the duration and time frame, because within the 3 years duration, you're supposed to submit your dissertation. Then definitely your time period for the research is very, very small. So this is also very important for the funder. So he will ask how much time you want. You cannot say I want 10 years to do the research. Definitely the funder will not wait for the 10 years to get his money back. So you need to have a very realistic time frame for the research. Then you need to have budgetary estimate. Budgetary estimate is very, very important, and it should be realistic. If it is not realistic, then certainly the fundraiser or the person who is going to give you the fund, he will not give you the money, because he thinks this is a fraud proposal. Just they want to escalate the funding, then they are asking the money, because he will be looking after so many proposals which will be submitted by all over the world, or it may be all over India, or it may be in Andhra Pradesh, depending on the geography. Then coming to the title should present the information about the study that is very clear, because many people will write a title making it a catchy, but it will not give the essence of the study. Then certainly if the people who are not having the time, they may go through the title alone. If the title will not mimic what you want to do, then certainly they will discard it. Even though your proposal is very good, they will not able to go through because of the time constraint in the methodology. Then after seeing title only, they may discard the proposal. That's why many people will ask, what is there in the name? Yes, there are so many things are there in the name. So you should have a good title which will be catchy and which is going to mimic your study proposal within the word limit. Many of the research proposals will have a word limit for the title also. So everybody should be taking care. It's not like a paragraph. Title should not be a paragraph. It should be a hardly 1.5 to 2 sentences at the max. Usually we say it as a 30 to 50 words should be there as a title. Then it should be clearly related to the broad areas of the study. Even though you are going to focus and defocus the study, but the title should give the broad area. Example, antibiotic resistance. For what? Antibiotic resistance for, it may be a COVID, or it may be a sinusitis, or it may be mucormycosis. So whatever the study areas will be there, it should give you a very clear relation. Then only the reviewer is going to able to understand by going through the title, yes, this study is going to be related to this broad area of the study. And it should be concise and informative. It should be informative, but it should be concise also. It is not like a half a paragraph. The title, if it's a half a paragraph, then certainly the reviewer is going to lose the interest. Then avoid abbreviations. Usually title should not contain abbreviations and even formulas as far as possible. Then coming to introduction. See, once the title is ready, then you're supposed to have a very brief introduction as a concisely to the particular topic and briefly touch upon the previous research. Many times what happens, there are lab results and which you want to go for a translation. And if you don't know the lab results and directly if you want to hypothesize yourself, no, I want to do this. Certainly without having any lab research or in vitro results, your translation is not possible, or else it may take more time. And the fund giver will always think whether they are having the proper support of the hypothesis or not. That's why we have to touch upon a previous research and raise the interlocking findings and unanswered questions. There will be some unanswered questions. Usually whenever you go through the article, any typical research article, at the end of the article, you are going to get a limitations of the study. Those limitations are nothing but unanswered questions. So those you're supposed to answer in your research, then the fundraiser will understand, yes, this particular research is going to give the idea, or it is going to give some solution for the unanswered questions which has been done previously. The remaining questions are unexplored areas. There may be some knowledge gap. Whenever there is a knowledge gap, that knowledge gap should be filled through your research. That time also the funder will be happy to give, because you are going to give some knowledge gap filling. That time it is going to be eligible for the funding. Otherwise, it will not be eligible for funding. Why there is a need for the current study? Usually we say it as a rationale. So whenever you are going to write, you should write a single or a 2 sentence of rationale. Why you want to do this? What is the significance? And how the existing knowledge is different from your particular research. And clearly put forth the research question. It's very important. Usually they will ask, if you are going to go for the fundraising, otherwise presenting or pitching up the grant proposal, they will ask, what is your research question? So that time, if you don't have a problem statement very clearly, then definitely they will tell, this guy is in a dilemma. He don't know what he want to do. Certainly they will not be ready to give you the money. Then what are the objectives? I hope all of you people will be knowing what is the objective. Basically, it mentions the primary objective of the study in a line or two and clearly specify the secondary objectives also. Example, just if I'm going to talk about any clinical topic. So if you want to say osteomyelitis secondary to COVID, okay, what is your primary objectives? You want to examine what's the prevalence of osteomyelitis, otherwise mucormycosis secondary to COVID. Then you need to have a secondary objectives also, because we don't know how many people will get affected with mucormycosis, how many people will get affected with osteomyelitis. So you need to have a secondary objectives. During the primary objective, along with the secondary objective, if you give, certainly it is going to give the broader area for the study, so that you are going to get a proper idea about the study and you are not going to lose the focus. Then coming to methodology, you're supposed to have a proper research design. Either it may be clinical, or it may be community level, or it may be lab-based trial, or it may be interventional study, or it may be prospective or retrospective studies. It may be a cross-sectional study, or it may be a specific group-based study, or it may be randomized, or it may be case control study. You have got a lot of research designs. So you're supposed to opt one research design which is optimal for your particular research methodology. And coming to sampling methods is also very important, because if you want to do any translation, if whenever you want to do any translation, that time it's very important. Any translation work is only possible when there is a proper sampling method. Otherwise, it is very difficult to have a.
Sir, Kattamani sir, please, sorry to interrupt you, sir. Kattamani sir, one
Hello?
second, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sir, somebody has switched on the microphone, sir, so it is getting lot of disturbance here, sir. I request
I
all
think
the
no.
participants to
There are
please, sir.
Kishore and Sampath sir is switched on. You can mute everybody. You got the option of muting everyone.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just you mute all.
I'm trying to mute all, sir. Yes, yes, sir. I will just unmute you, sir. That's it. I think. Yeah, fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry
Okay.
for the interruption.
Yeah, it's okay. No issues. I hope I am audible, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was talking about the sampling methods. Then coming to sample size and subjects. So usually whenever you are going to talk about the clinical research or a translational research, sample size is very important along with the subjects. So this you're supposed to go ahead, because you need to have a power of the study. Many of the time, even the power is not important. But whenever you go for any pharmaceutical industrial trials, that time they are going to ask you what's the number of the sample which you are going to involve. Because if you want to do any translation, certainly these numbers are very important. Then you're supposed to have a study location, whether it is a geographical area, or whether it is a multinational trial, or whether it is a small setting like a school, hospital, or it may be a diet center, or it may be ICDS center, or it may be any homes or hospitals, or it may be a village. So study location is also very important, because the budgetary aspects are very much related with this study location. Coming to research tools. So when you're going to talk about the research tools, you're supposed to mention what methods you will be used to collect the data, whether it's a quantitative or collective, and whether it's a clinical or anthropometric measures, or either a combination, or it may be anything else. And mention how these tools will be developed, and whether it is a pre-tested, validated, or it is non-validated, whether it's standardized one or not. So these are the research tools, very important, because whenever you want to assess something, it should be standardized. If it is not standardized, certainly your results cannot be standardized. And that makes a difference. Then coming to data collection, when you're going to talk about the data collection, mention the process involved in the data collection and who will collect the data, whether it's a field staff or a lab staff, or which you are going to employ, like a project assistant, project associate, or it may be scientific administrative assistant, who is going to collect the data, whether they are appropriate person or not, and what is the mechanism for the regular quality checks. So these things are very important for the data collection. If the data collection goes wrong, then certainly you cannot analyze the data properly. Then coming to data entry and analysis, whenever you are going to do any data entry, either you use any softwares, and the person who is going to enter the data, he should know how to enter. That's very important, because data entry itself is one of the course. So in the Excel, otherwise it may be R, or it may be a ReoMem. There are so many softwares which are available for data entry analysis part. Then coming to expected outcome, it is usually said as a hypothesis. What is likely to the outcome of the study? This is very important, because the funder is going to ask you what you are going to achieve through this research proposal. Then you should have a proper idea. I want to do this, and you should be assertively. You should say, yes, this is the outcome of my study. So certainly I am going to. Certainly I am going to do this. Certainly I am going to do this, and it is going to give the results. Then only you will understand the fundraiser is interested in this aspect. Otherwise, the fundraiser will think twice. When you are not going to give an expected outcome, then certainly it is not going to make any policy or any practice research. Then very important aspect is the ethical considerations. Nowadays, whenever you are going to do any sort of research, the ethical consideration is very important, whether it is involving humans or animals. In vitro part also nowadays, they're coming with different sets of guidelines. In the ethical considerations, is any ethical clearance required for the study? Studies involving human subjects may need an ethical clearance. Does the study use invasive methods or interview techniques? and consent to be taken or not. In case of children, the parent consent is must. Specify the institute or university whose institutional review board or ethics committee will be approached. These are very important aspects when you're going to talk about the ethical consideration. Probably ethical consideration, we might have taught for the postgraduates, what all the ethical consideration you're supposed to follow. I don't want to go through each step of ethical consideration here. The time limitations is making me to go through in a very cut short way. So you need to understand there are ethical considerations whenever you are going to submit a proposal. Then the very important point is a duration and time frame. What is the duration by which the study is to be completed from the date of initiation? It's very important. Usually they will ask, when you don't have a proper idea about the study, then it's very difficult for you to tell. So usually we ask how many months follow-up you want to do if it is a clinical trial. If it is an animal trial, then you will ask how many timelines you want to take. You need to have a very precise methodology, then only you can answer about the duration of the study. Then coming to time frame, estimated time frame or a timelines for each steps, like a preparatory phase, baseline data collection, intervention or clinical trial, or it may be post-intervention or trial data collection, data entry, analysis, and submission of study reports. Usually what happens, we think whenever we start doing any research, we think we can finish it off fast, but it is not so. Whenever you are going to start any study, you should have a timeline. The timeline should consist of a preparatory phase, how many days you will take. Then the baseline data collection, how many days it takes. So you're supposed to put a chart. In the chart, you're supposed to give the timelines. The timeline will give you the picture. What's the manpower required? Because you want to go for the granting. When you want to go for a grant or a fundraising, these steps are very important. If I don't know properly how much manpower I require, for example, if I want to do a very big study with 100 animals, and if I ask the government, I want only 2 research fellows, then they will sanction definitely. But I am underrating my proposal. When I am going to plan for 100 animals, then I need to have a minimum 2 lab technicians who can look after the animals. And I need a 2 project associates who can look after the animal maintenance. Then I need 2 more experts in the animal who is going to look after the necropsy. Then certainly instead of 2, I require total 6 manpower. If you don't have a proper idea what you are going to do, how you are going to do, then certainly the time frame is going to make the difference for the final assessment, because the person who is sitting for the review board, they will be looking after the duration of the time and time frame along with the manpower. And it's very important, many times many rejections will happen because of the bibliography. The resource person or a research proposal submitter, he should be very keen and very clear with the references, how they should be arranged, because each of the funding agencies will have its own way of presentation and a style. That style should be read in the website before you start writing and before the submission of the final proposal. And the reference should be usually presented in numerical way. And either way you can cite it. It may be Harvard style, or it may be alphanumeric, or it may be author and year. It all depends on the proposal where you want to submit. Usually the British people will go for author and year citations. Sometimes they may go with the Harvard style, and all other remaining people will go with the Vancouver style. So these are very important. But before you do any sort of references or bibliography, you're supposed to go through the guidelines. That's very important. Now, the last part of the grant writing is a budgetary estimate. So imagine if you want to travel from Guntur to Pune, then you need to know how many days it requires if you go by a cycle, and how many days it requires if you go by a train, and if you fly, how many hours it requires. Then what is the cost involved? Whether you want to have only water, whether you want to have only tea, whether you want to have a lunch, or whether you want to have any cold drinks, or whether you want to have something else for your food. So those all things are very important in the budget estimate, because if you don't know the way how you are traveling, certainly you cannot give the budget. So your path should be very clear. Once the path is clear, then only you can put the budgetary estimate. For example, if I want to start a lab, then I need to understand what all the things are required. Infrastructural facilities are required, the manpower facilities are required, then consumables, contingency, then comes a dead stock, then comes a testing facilities, outsourcing, then overheads, all these things is going to make a budgetary estimates. Even if you miss any single point agenda in the budgetary estimate, certainly the budget either it may be low, or if you are going to escalate it, certainly it will make a sense for the funder. What are the common mistakes we are going to do during the grant writing? Usually, the failure to provide a proper context to frame research question. See, what happens whenever the fundraiser is going to give the call for the funding? So usually there will be a call form, thematic area, for example, oral cancer research, Tata Trust, or it may be ICMR on antibiotic sensitivity, or it may be tubercular research, or it may be waste management. Either it is a medical waste management or agricultural waste management, waste to wealth. So there are so many thirst areas and so many bodies who are funding. Either it's a governmental body or non-governmental body, or it may be any other body which is going to fund. Definitely they will have a context. In those contexts, you're supposed to think whether your research is going to fit into that particular context or not. Imagine if your context is not going to fit, then how you are going to fit your context into that particular thirst area. That's very, very important. If you're not going to fit your context into that particular thirst area, then they will not accept for the funding. Then there are some failures in the landmark studies. Example, if you cannot mention a landmark studies, for example, very recently you might have come across regarding COVID. So there is one study in the Nature and the Lancet which has been retrieved. So there may be some false citations, or there may be some predatory journal citations. So those things are very important. And apart from that, there are some studies which have been done as a landmark studies. Even if you don't cite those landmark studies, they think your literature review is been very less, otherwise it is a weak. So he don't know what's the background of the study and what is all about. If you don't know proper research review, then definitely it is going to make a common mistake for the grant rejections. Then failure to accurately present others' research is also very important, because whenever you want to do a research in the similar area, or it may be same area with a different objectives, then you should definitely mention accurate representation of others' research, what they have done, how they have done, and what are their lacunae, and what is the knowledge gap which they have not fulfilled, and why they have not fulfilled. So how you want to do the fulfilling of those mistakes, that's supposed to be written. Otherwise, it's one of the common mistake. Then failure to develop a coherent and a pervasive argument. See, usually what happens whenever you go for a granting, there will be around 10 to minimum panel will be of 10 members and maximum panel will be 22 members. In the 10 members panel, you will have a 5 subject experts and 5 allied subject experts. If it's a 25 members panel, then you will have a 10 members experts who are subject experts, and 10 members will be a science people, then allied science people, socialist and economist and scientific background. They are purely science or a scientist who will be sitting and who will be observing. They are all laymen. See, for our proposal, they are all laymen because they don't know anything, but they know the etiquities, what we have written, and they know how you supposed to be backed, otherwise how you supposed to be rejected, because they will be sitting to criticize. It may be constructively, or sometimes it may be destructive also. Many times it happens whenever you go for a fundraising, they will ask why you want to do this. Then you have got a lot of hope. You say so many things. Sir, I have got these many advantages with my study. Everything will ask, but they will not be convinced. There is a small hitch. That small hitch you need to understand. That's why we say the argument should be coherent and it should be rational. Whenever you do any argument, it should not be blind argument with anybody. If it is a coherent one with some logical expression and with a scientific background, certainly they will also understand, yes, the person who has come for asking grant, he is having a good rationale behind his proposal. And many times what happens during a grant writing, otherwise a proposal writing, we write, it may be a minor issue, okay, we do a lot of details. Example, we want to go with a universal cement, okay, we do write a lot of things, okay, but we miss major issues. Why you want a universal cement? Already there are so many existing dental cements, then why you want one more cement? So nobody knows. So if you are going to not to make the idea clear, then certainly they will tell so many are there already. There are so many companies. There are many competitors in the world, corporate competitors. Why I have to spend my money on development of one more cement? So if you don't know how to express it properly, certainly you are going to have a failure in the grant. Then too many citation lapses. See, many times what happens, even they see the references what you have quoted. If there is any lapse or if it is incorrect, usually if it is a landmark article, if they want to go back and read whatever the methodology you adopted, for any research proposal, if you have taken any standard methodology, in the standard methodology, you need to have a reference cited, even if it is not your own methodology, because you have been adopted some other's methodology. That time, if they want to see what is the original methodology has been adopted, for what purpose they have adopted, and how they have drawn the conclusions and results, then certainly, if the incorrect references are there, they could not able to find. They think this is a false proposal. Otherwise, this guy has given some wrong information. Then automatically they will reject your proposal. If the proposal is too long or too short, it's very important. Either it should not be too long, either it should not be too short. There is a word limit for each section. Even if you write now, say there is 200 word limit, your word limit is 201, so you're supposed to cut one word. So you're supposed to be very particular during the writing of a proposal. Then let me give you
Hello. Kattamani sir. Vivekananda sir. Hello. Hello. Vivekananda sir.
yeah.
Are you able to, we are not able to hear your voice in between, sir. You just said an example of 200 words, then we lost your voice, sir.
Okay. Now is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry. Maybe band width. Okay.
Okay.
So last time, one of the proposals submitted for Astrology Foundation in London, and she was a Nobel laureate. The scientist who has submitted the proposal, she's a Nobel laureate, and she has got rejection of her proposal. Probably you understand why she has got rejected, even though she's a Nobel laureate in the science. Okay, so such things will happen. It may be because of some of the lacunae. So you're supposed to give enough time, even though we are all scholars, even though we know our subject, but you're supposed to give enough time because we need to make somebody else to understand that they're supposed to give us money. It's not our knowledge. They are not looking after our knowledge. They are looking after what they want. If we are going to give what they want, then certainly they are going to give us money. Otherwise, they will not give us money. And start by writing a summary of your proposed project. You're supposed to write a summary, what you want to do. Then demonstrate an up-to-date knowledge of the field. You should have up-to-date knowledge. It's very important because usually whenever you go for arguing, then if somebody who is sitting as an expert in the panel, then they will ask some questions which may not be known to you. Then he will understand and assess your knowledge. He is not updated. Then that is one of the drawback for the grant proposal rejection. And present your aims and objectives very clearly and concisely. Whatever you want to do, you have to be very clear with your objectives and aims. And avoid any jargons, because say what you mean. It should be very clear and it should be in a simple language. Many times what happens, you keep on, we say usually beat around the bush. Nobody wants to say directly because they think, see, if you don't have a knowledge, usually what we do, we need to take support from something else, but it is not going to make any sense for the grant provider. You should be very clear and concise, and it should be a single line that what you want to do, I want this much money. Then they will be very clear whether they can give or not. And don't be afraid of the state. See, whether it is going to get rejected or accepted, it's immaterial, but you need to state your obvious statement and use appropriate charts and graphs. Very, very important. You're supposed to use the charts and graphs very appropriately, and which is going to give the logical sequence. The charts and graphs are definitely the catchy one, and they're going to give the logical sequence for your presentation. Anticipate questions. See, usually whenever you go before, you can have your team. In the team, you present it. Prior, you go to the presentation or a pitching. So there, what are the questions they may raise? You're supposed to prepare in advance so that you could able to answer very briefly, because the question answer session will be very brief. They may give you 5 to 10 minutes at the max. So within that 5 to 10 minutes, you're supposed to convince for their questions. Ask a colleague or an expert to review before you finalize. You should have a team. So who can help you and who can give you the constructive criticism and constructive ideas how you can improve your proposal. And be enthusiastic about your idea. If you don't sound interested, why should anyone else? See, when you don't have an interest in your proposal, then definitely nobody will have an interest. That's why usually we say anything you want to do, you should have an interest and you should create interest in others. Then only you could able to raise an interest in somebody. To summarize a proposal, so this is going to be the last 3 slides of the presentation. So I'm going to summarize you whole grant proposal into these points. First, you need to identify a problem, which is a need of the statement. Then explain the project's intent to resolve the problem and set measurable markers or success. That's the objective. So you have an aim and you have objectives. Then describe the steps that will be taken to reach the objectives, because you need to know the steps. Example, if you're coming from Vijayawada to Sibbald Institute of Dental Sciences, you need to know how you want to come. If the Varadhi is blocked because of the rain, Varadhi is blocked, so you need to know how you want to come. So those are the steps or activities, whether you want to use your own boat or whether you want to come by swimming, we don't know. So these are the steps how you want to take and how briskly, because the decision is very important for the activities. Then introduce the individuals who will carry out the activities. Those are called personals. Usually the resource persons are very important. That we say it's a manpower. Another word is a manpower. So which manpower you want to take? For example, if you want to do any technical research, and if you take a doctor, if the person is not a technical one, certainly you are not going to reach your objectives or goals. Then even though the proposal is going to be accepted, but your result will be a failure. And outlines procedures for measuring the project's success in meeting the objectives. Very, very important, because once if your proposal is going to get accepted for funding, then every 3 months, quarterly, there will be evaluation. After evaluation, if it sounds good and if you are going to be up to the mark, whatever the objectives according to the Gantt chart, if you are given, if you are going to meet out those things, then only they will give further funds. Otherwise, they say it is not up to the mark and they can stop the grant. Then estimate the funding needed to complete the project. It's very important, because proposed budget, many times what happens, if we are a new investigator, then we don't know what all the things is required. When we really start, because we need to dream. Many times I say, whenever I go for any undergraduate classes, you need to dream what you want to become. If you dream what you want to become, then certainly you're supposed to think how I should be there. Then you're supposed to think of the steps, and you're supposed to think of how much money is required. And each and everything, you put it together, that will make you the budget plan. So let me summarize. Whenever you're going to submit a proposal, definitely it should have a significance, and who are all the investigators, and what is the innovation, and how you want to approach, and what is the context or environment where you want to do, and whether it is an integrated research, is there any learning objectives or not, and is there any diversity, and whether it is going to improve something else or not, and whether the infrastructure available in your lab or not. It's also very important. Usually the grant giver, otherwise the fund giver, will ask you, usually there will be a one annexure where you're supposed to submit what are the existing facilities with your lab. If you don't have existing facilities, then he will ask, if I give you 1 crore rupees, do you think you can perform a 5 crore budgeted research? Definitely no, it is not possible. That means whatever the budget you have planned, that is very less. That means you don't know how to perform your research. That's how they will understand, because of the lack of infrastructure facilities. Then how it is going to benefit to the society. That's very, very important. Whenever you want to submit a proposal, you're supposed to make it as a translational research. Then only the funder will be able to give you the money. So with this, I thank you for giving me opportunity, because the grant proposal writing, we will have some tips and tricks. how you supposed to write, and what is a research proposal is one part, and what is a grant proposal another part. In the first polling, already we have seen. Now I want to give the same poll for you people. Once again, I want you people to give the results. Then we'll have a question answer session. So I want to know what you have understood, whether the research proposal and grant proposal are same or not. If it is same, whether they are overlapping or not. So let me give you once again the poll. Then meanwhile, I think Purna or it may be Sandeep or it may be Tejashwin, they can moderate the session. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity, and I thank all of you for patience listening, and I thank my mentor, Dr. L. Krishna Prasad Garu, giving me this opportunity to address you people regarding grant writing. If any questions, I am very happy to answer few of them. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
People can go ahead with the poll. So this is a previous poll. So I'm going to give you one more poll for the next session. So let me understand what you people have understood. So I'm giving you the same link once again.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Vivekanand Kattamani, for sharing the integral part of the research grant writing and revealing a few secrets and tips for the grant proposal writing. And I hope I think it is very clear and then covered all the areas of the grant proposal writing. So I request the respected faculty or the students, any of you are having any the clarifications or the queries, so you can go about it.
So I have given you the post poll link. Those people who are able to do, there are 167 people who have joined for the meeting. So all of you can give the post poll. So let me go through. And if you have any questions, you can put it in a chat box, so we can answer your questions. Otherwise, you can unmute yourself. We'll give you the option of unmuting. So you can unmute and you can ask the questions. Thank you very much. So I think everybody is behind the polls. So let me wait for 5 minutes and I'll share you the screen for the poll.
Once the program is over, I request all the interns and PGs to stay back, not to sign out, please.
And Tejashwin, I request they can switch on their camera so that you can take one photograph.
Yes, sir. I'm about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I request all the interns and postgraduates and all the staff just to switch on your camera mode. And please, PGs and interns, please don't leave till the program is completely over. As we want attendance also, please. Thank you. If possible, please try to switch on your camera just for to take a screenshot, please. Thank you.
There is one question from Ram Chaudhary. Please tell some research grant websites and when they will be available and in which month they are available. Okay. So thank you, Ram, for the question. There are so many websites. For a medical website, you can go ahead with the ICMR, DBT, and DST. So these are the main funding agencies in Government of India. Nowadays, the Government of India has come out with so many funding agencies. You can look after the ICMR. ICMR funding will be open for twice a year. DBT funding will be open for quarterly, and DST funding will be open for twice a year, and BIRAC funding will be open for twice a year. Then scientific bodies like ICR, UGC, they're all open around the world, around the year, and you're supposed to go ahead the website. There are so many websites. In the website, if you just click it, then certainly it will give you the idea and what are the instructions you're supposed to follow, and you're supposed to make your own account. Then you're supposed to go through the thirst areas. Then you can follow it up. Usually, the January and June will be the standard time where the call for proposals will be there. Because of COVID, they're all running delay. So the quarterly time will be like January, April, then June, July, then September, the quarterly timing. And there are some proposals which will be open around the year, so they will not close. Example, junior research fellow grants, then senior research fellow grants, young investigator grants, young researcher grant, and young scientist grants. These 5 grants will be open all around the year. So you can apply through any one of the ICMR, DBT, DST, UGC, and even Dr. NTR Health University is also having some grants. So very recently, we have received a UG SRS grants. Ours is one of the top college where we have received much of the grants for our UG students. So these are the few grants you can go ahead and you can get the grants. So I think I'll read out the post poll. Previously, like now also the people who have written, let me share the screen. If you want, you can see through what they have written. So you can understand what is their understanding even after the class. So I hope my screen is visible to everybody. So only 4% people have told both are same, and 30% people say both are different, and 7% people say both may look similar. 29% say may overlap in few aspects, and 20% people say research proposal can be a grant proposal. Definitely yes. Then grant proposal may be a research proposal. Definitely yes. It means that 10%. See, all the questions, question which we have framed, whether the research proposal and grant proposal both are same or not. It is not same. Research proposal can be converted to a grant proposal if the thrust area is going to fall for the grant. Otherwise, both are not same. Are both different? Yes, definitely both are different, because the research proposal cannot be a grant proposal, but grant proposal can be converted into a research proposal. And yes, both may look similar. There are 2 words which I have included. One is a budget and another is manpower. So if you're going to remove both the words, then definitely research proposal and grant proposal are the same. May overlap in few aspects. Yes, definitely it will have an overlap except budget and manpower. The research proposal can be a grant proposal. Yes, it can be a grant proposal if you're going to include a budgetary part and manpower part. Otherwise, you cannot make a research proposal as a grant proposal. The thematic area of aim and objective can be the grant proposal, but it not be the grant proposal exactly what we want to get the money. The grant proposal may be a research proposal. Yes, definitely, because even if you give a manpower and budget, it's okay. They're not bothered, because if you want to give it for PhD approval, otherwise a dissertation approval, it should be a research proposal. So which will have all contents. Thank you very much. I think Dr. Ram, I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think I have finished within my time. Thank you very much once again for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Vivekanand Kattamani, for sharing your valuable inputs and guidelines regarding the research proposal grant writing. And if any other queries, you please put it in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll go with the end of the session.
Sir, if any queries, please please put in the chat box. If not, I request all the interns and the postgraduates to stay back for the attendance. Remaining, you can leave.
Yeah, at the outset, I also thank Dean Dr. L. Krishna Prasad sir and Principal Dr. B.V. Ramana Reddy sir for their encouragement and continuous support in organizing this program. And we also thank